What's up everybody, Swillow here, and today I am going to be making a little combat guide. Now, I've been wanting to make this for a while now, but I've been trying to study, explore, and understand the combat the best that I absolutely can. The combat system in this it has a lot of really intricate elements that are hard to fully understand. So I've definitely been holding back on making this guide as long as I can, and even still making this guide now, there's a lot of things that I feel like I can't say for sure. So there's even potential for a follow-up guide the more I start to understand this combat, but I feel like I've reached a strong enough understanding of it that I can explain how it works and how to tell you how to understand how things are working. So let's get right into, before I go into combat, let's talk about how gear and gems function in combat. So you have your weapons, which are just like a raw attack and defense stat. Pretty straightforward. Accessories is going to be a pretty big influence on your combat, whether it's going to be through just raw stat buffs, or you're going to also have accessories that give you unique kind of like enhancements to your combo options. So first you have something like Crimson Earrings that gives you a more jump ability, which doesn't sound that great on paper, and in some ways it's not like a big deal, but there are some characters that do heavily benefit from the increased jump height in terms of comboing and just overall connecting their moveset better. So it's definitely an accessory to consider if you feel like you need more air potential. And it also helps you connect certain moves going from the air to the ground more easily by having that extra jump height, like knockdown triggers that kind of dive to the ground. You also have stuff like Heaven and Earth Gauntlets and a number of other accessories that basically give you resistance to hit, stun, or stagger while you're in the act of performing something. This is extremely helpful in terms of just not getting interrupted at all while mounting an offense. So this is definitely like a staple accessory that a lot of people are gonna like and use. It makes it easier to just maintain constant offense. Then you have accessories like Quality Bag of Wind and Fine Bag of Wind. These give you enhanced air dashes. You get multiple air dashes, which is a really nice element for both mobility and for just chaining a lot more air options. You can chain multiple air strings, which is a great way to isolate and take down like a single officer. It's an accessory that I use a lot, but at the same time I've been not using it as much lately, just exploring other setups. So it definitely just kind of like a preference thing if you really want to have that extra mobility or the ability to keep someone in the air a lot longer. Windfire Wheels, which is one of the big accessories in terms of technical play. Normally you can jump cancel even without any accessories right from the start of the game, but it's like a more standard jump cancel of where you can jump out of recovery frames of attacks, which is still pretty functional and works really well. Windfire Wheels allows you to jump cancel any frame of an attack, even before the attack actually connects with the enemy, which allows you to get even more frame advantage, even more fluidity in your combat options. But at the same time, it does require some level of timing and understanding of the moveset, because you can jump cancel out of moves before they actually hit your opponent. So this is a pretty big deal accessory if you like the technical play and having the most cancel flexibility. You have your items, your consumables, which I kind of neglected them at first when I played this game, because I'm not used to having to actually like manually equip and use items in a Warriors game. So it was kind of like a foreign concept to me, but it's actually really nice. It's really helpful. You have your typical healing. You can restore your Muso. You have straight stat buffs like strength, defense, speed, kind of the typical items you used to pick up off the ground in other Warrior games, but now you can freely use them when you want to, which is really nice. So I'd say it's worth keeping them in mind and always using them whenever you see fit. They're pretty generously given to you, or an easy to craft, so you don't really need to hoard them, I feel. And even in some cases you just don't even need to use them, period. But they are nice. It's kind of cool to have that on-demand use of these effects that you normally don't have in warrior games, so uh, definitely take advantage of it. Let's go to gyms. So next up for gyms, let me just go over all the elements and what they bring to the combat. So flame is your offensive based element. This is going to boost your attack power, and basically you're just going to equip this when you want to deal some pretty massive damage. It also has a really cool looking special effect while active, so I think this is a popular choice, even more so with the discovery of stuff like solar gems being able to get attack speed on them, so you can get that speed and attack buff, which is really nice. Ice is debatably the most useless element right now. It's a defense based element, which mainly it's useless in the fact that there's not any content in this game that feels like you really need that defense. Normally it's just easier to just pump up your offense and just go in and take them down before you could even have to worry about being taken down yourself. Maybe in DLC content there will be more desire to use stuff like defense, but right now it's kind of a whatever thing. You can do some fun stuff, however, like stack a bunch of defense and then equip like a health regenerating accessory, which pretty much makes you invincible. But like I said, it's often just a lot easier to take your enemies down before they take you down mentality through a strong offensive setup. But you do have that kind of option if you do want to go this route. And ice does also have some interesting effects itself, in that it will lower defense of enemies while they're in the frozen state, and it also does help in terms of comboing a little bit more in some ways, but I couldn't give like really specifics on that yet. I haven't explored it enough. So even more so than the defense boost that you get from it, it's probably more helpful for its secondary effects of lowering enemies' defense and giving you potentially more combo capabilities. Lightning is a really fun element. I feel it's a more technical element that I think a lot of people are probably going to get more into when they're looking for like a more when they're looking for the element that offers like the most dynamic options in terms of gameplay. Thunder is based around Muso, in that it will regenerate your Muso while active. It's really hard to build Muso bar in this game, so this becomes a really desirable effect, as Muso attacks in this game are super strong, both for damage, overall utility, good for comboing and such. So you get a lot out of Musos, and good lightning builds will have you getting Muso constantly, even fast enough to combo a single enemy with multiple Muso attacks, which is really cool. Like I was mentioning with the fire gems as well, now that we've discovered that you can get attack speed on legendary gems, you can basically run like a really good set of having attack speed, Muso regen, and on top of that, lightning has an extra effect of increasing your attack speed. The more you use it, certain actions will increase the attack speed more than others, but even just maintaining a really long chain of actions, you're going to be increasing and stacking increased attack speed, which means that lightning can ultimately get as fast as stuff like wind through good use of it. So lightning is definitely the element that I feel is the go-to in terms of flexibility and technical play. Next up is wind. Wind was a very popular element right out the gate because of its increased attack speed, and I feel like while that was strong at first, I think it's become less interesting now due to people figuring out that you can get attack speed on legendary of other elements, and I feel like using that attack speed mixed with the other elements perks is a lot more interesting and potentially pays off more than just running wind. But wind is definitely really strong, especially throughout your standard playthrough of the game, where you're not going to have a lot of these in-game builds and setups yet, and you can definitely get a lot out of the attack speed, and it's a handy element for what it is. It doesn't have a lot more beyond the attack speed, but it's still nice throughout your playthrough until you're able to make like these more technical builds involving attack speed on other elements. Slash is it's still kind of a element I haven't explored a lot, but it is neat in that it's basically based around, it's an offensive based element, but not so straightforward as flame. It's more focused on, it negates a certain percentage of the enemy's defense. So I feel like this effect, I don't know the exact amount of defense it negates, which is why I can't really comment like how strong this slash can potentially be, but I feel like slash could be really strong even in conjunction mixed within a flame build to get like ultimate potential of just dealing big damage. You could even stack this with, let's say, I would say like you could do something like have flame, ice, and slash and be able to stack these all within a chain to take advantage of the defense lowering aspects of the other two combined with the attack buff that fire gives. And I feel like in that way you could probably come up with some really intricate DPS builds, but it's hard to say since I don't have like exact numbers on the effects of everything yet. But that's basically the kind of ideas I have with slash that I've just kind of theory crafted, is that you can potentially make some really high end DPS builds utilizing the effect of it negating a certain amount of the enemy's defense. It's also strong in terms of counters and surprise attacks, so if you want to play like that more passive or stealth based play, it's going to be a very effective gem to use. Then we have Scourge or Poison. Poison is also like a more technical element, and it's hard to say just how effective it is, but it's also similar to Slash. It's going to play more on the stealth and passive based playstyle, where once you poison someone, they're going to take damage over time, and you're also going to get buffs and surprise attack damage as well. So these are like Slash and Poison both play on a more passive stealth style of play, which is actually pretty fun to try sometimes. I have run like Scourge builds throughout the game when I just wanted to do a lot of stealth killing and stuff, which is really cool. Then you have the no elemental gems, which these just give you like raw enhancements, you know, health, flow attack, speed, stuff like that. So I think it's possible that if you actually take the time to just, I don't know, craft like a lot of these, and you could potentially come up with a really neat build of just raw buffs if you get the right buffs that you want on these no elemental gems. But overall, I don't think that many builds will revolve around them, just because they only give like 2 straight buffs, and they're things that you can pretty much get on the other elements while still maintaining the perks of those elements. So I don't know, maybe there's more to the no element gems, or maybe there's some higher end gems that I just haven't gotten yet. But no element gems are probably going to be helpful to use more through your standard playthrough, where you're not going to have a lot of gem options, and those raw buffs are more nice until you're able to make more optimized stuff. Okay, so now that I've talked about all that stuff, let's get straight into the actual combat. Alright, so in terms of fighting, let me just go over, I'm just going to go really fast over the general controls, even though I feel like if you're watching this, you probably already know how to play the game, but I'm just going to make it easy and go over some of this stuff real quick. So first, the square button is your flow attack button. Depending on the state of your enemy, whether they're standing in the air, knockdown, stun, you're going to get different flow attacks. Triangle is your reactive button, and basically depending on what kind of actions your enemy is doing is going to determine the attack. So like if they're guarding, I do a guard break like that. Let's say they're not guarding, then I do like a stunning attack like this. So I can kind of loop that. So you can do like a guard break, and then you can just like keep doing like the stun string on them. And you know, like if they're about to attack, you can counter and stuff like that. So this is actually a really strong button, especially like this stun attack is really strong as a combo filler. It's a really good move to throw in between certain parts of your combos to maintain longer combos, because that stagger attack that you get right here when they're already in an open state will make it easier for you to restand the enemy and put them in a neutral state to continue a combo, which I'm going to go over in just a second. You have your triggers, your Knockdown Trigger. Knockdown Trigger is generally really strong in that it has a really good flow attack. I think most characters, their best flow attacks normally come from their knockdown strings. On top of that, the knockdown strings also tend to restand enemies, which is also really helpful for combo follow-ups in general. So you see like it just restanded the enemy there and left them in a dizzy state, which made it easy for me to just jump and do another flow attack. Whoops. Oh boy. So yeah, knockdown strings, in my opinion, they're really, really good in terms of you're mounting a powerful attack and follow-up. Next up, stun strings. Stun strings are, I feel like the stun strings have the weakest flow attack follow-ups, mostly because, let me just demonstrate. Whoops, let me properly stun them with the stun string first. So once you stun someone with a stun string, the string that follows up will normally launch them in the air. A lot of these stun strings are just not that good, in my opinion. Like, to be really blunt, I think a lot of them are really underwhelming. Some of them don't even fully connect if you have enough attack speed. Like, if you just watch right here, I'll actually demonstrate that real quick. So if you watch the last hit, just completely whiffed there because I have attack speed. So a lot of these stun strings are really underwhelming in that they put the enemy airborne, so you have to be looking to make an air juggle follow-up. Some of them just don't even connect because I don't feel like they fully had the time to test all the movesets in this game, so some of them just don't function well once you add attack speed to them. So stun trigger normally is like a filler in that you're either going to do something like, after you do a stun trigger, you're probably going to do a couple hits into a jump cancel into an air combo like that. Or you may just do a stun trigger and like jump cancel it into another trigger. So, you know, I'll just stun him here and then go into a knockdown trigger. So the stun trigger itself, you're going to use more for the actual utility of the attack. The flow attack afterwards, it really depends on the weapon too. Some characters actually do have a really good stun trigger. Like, let's say Liu Bei with twin swords, the stun trigger is actually super, super good. So it just depends on the weapon. I don't want to imply that stun trigger is like universally bad or the stun trigger flow attack is universally bad. But I do definitely feel like for some characters, it's just not their go-to option compared to like knockdown triggers, where I feel like knockdown triggers are more universally strong. And of course, like just standing strings are pretty strong as well, but it can also be difficult to start a standing string. But if you're able to start a standing string for some characters, like I find that standing strings for characters are either really, really good or not so good. So it's definitely just, you have to see like how it feels by per character basis. Launch trigger. Launch triggers are triggers that are definitely like really, really good for some characters, better than others. And I mean, they launch, so they all do function effective for being a launcher, though some characters do definitely have launch triggers that are much more generous in effects compared to others. So launch triggers is definitely another sort of trigger that you're gonna use more with certain characters and certain weapons more than you are other characters. So that's basically like the core of the options, I feel. Well, let me also talk about special attacks. Your R1 plus circle, the special trigger you get from that is a really important option in that it maintains combos well. Some characters more so than others. It comes with a elemental effect that it's specialized based around the character. The attack also has invincibility, it breaks guard and everything. So besides the actual attack itself and the utility of the attack itself has, the move property itself is already really strong with the invincibility, the combo breaking, the combo extending and stuff, the guard breaking I mean. So special attacks are definitely really important to utilize, as well as understand how you can mix those with the rest of the character's moveset and take advantage of the elemental effect they may give you. And then you also have your Muso attacks with Circle, which on the ground you can hold the button to extend like a standard string flurry into a finisher attack. Once again, certain characters have much more effective ones for certain situations than others. You also have an air string or air Muso, which doesn't use the full bar, but it comes with like a more unique standard hitting attack. Once again, you just have to explore that option with each character and weapon, or its character basis, since Muso attacks don't change depending on their weapon. But yeah, certain characters definitely have ground and air Musos that are more effective in certain situations than others. So that's basically the core combat. So now I want to talk about different ways that you may consider mixing up your options. So when mounting an offense against an enemy, like I was mentioning, the triangle button, the assault button is really strong. You know, like I can stun, guard break, and then from there I can start my combo once I've confirmed that I put them in that kind of state. So if you just want to approach an enemy like really effectively, you can be doing like jump cancel triangles until you finally stagger them, and then you can go into a string from there. The only downside you're gonna get from initiating a string like that is that if you hit the enemy with, let me show real quick. If you hit the enemy with the dizzy attack, they're going to be dizzied, so that means your flow attack string is going to be considered the stun string. And as I mentioned, the stun string for some characters can be underwhelming. So maybe instead of just going straight into a flow attack once you've confirmed a hit or a guard break or something, you may want to go into a more favorable trigger that the character has. So let me go in here and do that real quick. So I'll go into a knockdown trigger so that I can go into a knockdown flow attack. And let me show different ways that you can use the triangle as well as a filler combo technique. As I mentioned earlier, it's really strong. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to initiate a launch, and then I'm going to do a knockdown attack, and then I'm going to jump and re-stagger them with the jump triangle. By re-staggering them off the ground, when the enemy's laying on the ground, it's easier for them to tech. There's like a limitation to how many times you can hit someone on the ground, or how long they can be on the ground before they will air tech out of it. So if you do the triangle assault attack, you're gonna re-stand them into a stun state, which can give you a lot easier time of doing like extended loops, since you're taking them off the ground state, which being on the ground, you could go into like a ground flow attack or something. But there's also some elements, like I was saying before, I don't fully understand every detail of the combat system, but it really just depends on the character and how good their flow attack is. In some cases, someone's flow attack, knockdown flow attack, may be able to be teched out of after an extended like knockdown. So it just really depends. But that's one way that you can use the assault as a combo filler to make it easier to get follow-ups. So let me kind of demonstrate that again. Do an air combo, knockdown trigger. Whoops, he's dead. Alright, so knockdown trigger. Whoop. Okay, now something that just happened there, I want to talk about that actually. There's a timing to like when you launch an enemy. What basically happened there and why the enemy was able to tech out from what I found, is that I hit the enemy with the knockdown trigger before they touch the ground. By hitting them with the knockdown trigger before they touch the ground, it kind of deteriorated a lot of the hit stun and gave them the ability to tech. So basically I have to time it so that my knockdown trigger hits them while after they touch the ground so that they don't tech out. So as you can see there, I timed it so that my knockdown trigger hit once they touch the ground, and then I jump canceled into my assault attack to restand them. So now let me kind of do like a loop of this action just so you can kind of see what it looks like in a more extended combo setting. Alright, he was already a little too weak, so let me find another enemy to do that. Alright, so we're gonna do the knockdown once he touches the ground. We're gonna restand him. Alright, my timing was off there. So you can get something like that as an extended loop with proper timing. Once again, it just depends on the character's weapon and the options they have after. But that's kind of like an idea you can explore to do like extended loops or extended combos. Let's also talk about something else you can do. You can do stuff without giving the enemy a chance to really touch the ground, or giving them enough of a gap to tech out. So something like right here, I'm using the air trigger mixed with the stun trigger, or the air flow attack mixed with the stun trigger and jump cancels to keep them in persistent hit stun. And they're never touching the ground so that the knockdown limit can come into effect. So there's certain characters that can get away with combos like that. And then let me show off something else. With the bow staff, this isn't going to be the most effective string. So actually, let me just go to a character that I know this is really effective with. Let's go to my boy, Liu Bei. Liu Bei has some really, really amazing flow attacks. So I definitely want to demonstrate
my ambition to serve the people.
How he can chain his flow attacks together in super effective ways, and I'll also show some other effective combo methods that are kind of more exclusive to his playstyle or his weapon type. Liu Bei is also, I'm going to demonstrate as well. Liu Bei is one of the characters that has a really, really strong stun trigger in my opinion, because it comes with a launch effect. It has a launch trigger effect at the end of it, which is helpful because of, as I mentioned before, stun triggers pretty much make the enemy airborne anyways. So it's really helpful when some characters have stun triggers that automatically go into a launch trigger finisher, because the enemy is already going to be in an airborne state, so that's a favorable follow-up. Alright, so we're going to go out here to the bandit land. Let me see, I don't know what I have equipped. Let me equip some stuff real quick. So we're just going to run standard lightning build stuff right now. Pretty much more than anything, you definitely just have to explore your character and your weapons. Every character has like a different combo theory. Every weapon has like a different ideal combo theory to them. Like I said, it's not as straightforward as some other warrior games in the past, where I'm not saying that in the past that every character had the same combo theory, but there were some same approaches. Like there were some easier ways to know how to find out what worked in other warrior games, whereas in this, because the move design and the combat design is so ambitious in a way, it definitely takes a little more exploration in terms of finding out how this character or this weapon type can piece their moves together in an effective way. So let's go right up here, and basically what I'm gonna showcase right now is now, if you saw what I just did right there, I just literally linked all three of my flow attacks into each other. Liu Bei has really amazing flow attacks, and off of his knockdown trigger, he can do his knockdown flow attack into his standing flow attack, jump canceled into his launch flow attack, which is super good. It's so good. And some characters definitely have much more effective flow attacks in terms of chaining and comboing than others do. So let me just show that again. I'm gonna stun him, and then I'm gonna do my knockdown trigger, go into my down. So I got my down flow attack, jump canceled into my standing flow attack, jump canceled into the air flow attack. Now, I also want to talk about something that happened in the recent patch. The recent patch actually changed the combo system in some ways. There are some combos that you just cannot do anymore due to the patch changes, and this is something that I haven't fully explored yet, but I think like in some cases it's become a lot harder to chain from the air to the ground. I think in the past, like before the newest patch, it was actually really easy for some characters to chain going from the air to the ground, but now when enemies get knocked to the ground, they have a tendency to tech a lot faster outside of like a couple of characters' movesets or options. But in general, the combo timing has gotten more strict, which, I mean, I guess it's kind of a good and a bad thing. It's kind of a bad thing that there's less flexibility, but it also encourages you to master the fine mechanics of the combat more. So definitely take note of that some of the, if you watch old pre 1.4 footage, you may be seeing combos that are not actually possible anymore if you do analyze the videos that thoroughly to notice like the different combos and stuff people are doing. So keep that in mind, that the new patch did change the combat in some ways. It's hard to say exactly how, because the combo theory was not really fully known before the patch. So to know the combo theory before the patch and what the patch changed is a lot more on the table to understand. But definitely keep that in mind, that some combo elements have changed. And basically from what I've noticed, the thing that's changed the most is stuff that goes from the air to the ground. So definitely when going from air to ground, you have to be a lot more tight and precise on your inputs to maintain the combo. So yeah, right there was his stun trigger that I was talking about, which is really helpful. And as you saw right there, he was just able to tech out. But interestingly enough, if you saw right there, they're not able to tech out if I do the roll. If I roll my launch trigger, I feel like there's some really hidden aspects to the launchers and roll canceling moves that can prolong hit stun in some ways. I cannot give the exact specifics to that, but it's just, like I said, there's so many little intricacies in this combo system and the combat in general that it's really hard to tell. But basically, if you see right here, if I go into launch trigger and just try to do a flow attack follow-up, he teched out. But now I'm gonna do a launch trigger. I guess it's more of just bad timing. I guess that's what it looked like in that case. I don't know. Probably more of a timing thing, to be honest. But the timing has become strict enough to where I guess being like a little bit of spacing or a little poorly timed on your string can be enough to give them like an opportunity to tech versus not being able to tech. So definitely as I explore that timing and restrictions more, I will potentially make a follow-up video to this that explains some of those details more specifically. But this is like my general overview of the combat right now and different combo theories. So let me just kind of go in and fight some guys for a little bit. You can just watch some different things I'm gonna do.
For my aspirations, I will fight to the end. Get out of my way! For my aspirations, I will fight to the end. He only moves forward.
Alright, so that's just a little bit of kind of random freestyling. Different things that I'll point out that I was trying to do in there is using the triangle attack, as I mentioned, the assault attack, as kind of combo filler in between triggers and flow attacks to restand my opponent into like a more easy follow-up. Utilizing some roll cancel on the launch to give the enemy time to drop down to the ground and get some other trigger follow-ups. And just generally, mostly I'm just kind of free-flowing, still trying to understand different technicals, but hopefully I was able to give you some ideas of how the combo system works, how the combat works, how you will consider using your options, and definitely just ask me any questions, or even if you feel like you have an more understanding of certain things that I may not, definitely bounce ideas with me in the comments, because I'm definitely very into learning as much as I can about this combo system as I can, the combat in general. So definitely give me some of the tips, tactics, and combo understandings you have, as well as just letting me know if you need more help in how to understand things, or even if you have a specific moveset or character you want to talk to me about that maybe some things seem a little weird. Maybe I'll explore them myself, or maybe I played as the character and can already give you some insight on them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to give some sort of insight, and I will still continue exploring the combat and trying to understand as much about it as I can. So I hope you enjoyed. Peace, everyone.